In this video help, I'm going to be covering the scheduled service report. When we were in the inventory tab video, you added a scheduled or non-scheduled or planned report item. What this does is it takes the service work order that you created on the second part of the tab or the second tab that uses the serial number of the item and the date that you actually were doing the service for this item on a repetitive basis. Now, in most cases, when you're doing preventative service or scheduled service or unscheduled, you will use it on a serialized item as far as what you're actually doing the planned maintenance on. If you're doing any other kind of maintenance where you're doing scheduled calibration or something like that, typically the work order will not have a planned sequence on it. But if you do, you can always use this kind of a thing to do it with. What we're looking at here at the top is the first item in the list up here, but what you would do anytime you're working in the service information here is to use the find to look for a specific work order or part of work orders related to a certain client or whatever. So in this case, I would be looking for a particular service work order number. To do that, you do a find. What I typically do to make it really easy for me is I can go ahead and start the find and wait for it to drop down and just pick the one where we're looking for. If you know before you come into the screen which one you're looking for, you can just click on it. It goes ahead and installs it. You have additional information you can put on there. It's got the task ID of the actual item that you're talking about, that you're working on. And this is the invoice, actually the work order, but there's still task IDs that are involved with that. In this particular case, it was task item 13 is the only one in there right now. And that's the one that matches the actual serial number. So you can see that it was on 320, so they have a match. Now what I can do is, before I go ahead and do any more, I can go ahead and change and add other things like, oh, I don't know, if I had a service description and I wanted a particular thing, but that's all inclusive with this particular work order. So if I'm doing this work order and preventive maintenance, I'm probably looking for that item. So in this case, if you look up here when I changed it, you see it changed up above as well. And I'm going to go ahead and say perform the search. And what it does is it goes ahead and puts in the information that I was looking for. In this case, the ID, as far as the other information, is incomplete in the work order that was being done, so it doesn't really have all the information. This is kind of roughing through stuff because not everything has the correct information that was done in the service work order. Eventually, that shows you that you need to do that when you're actually working in the tab for the service work order to complete, like the equipment ID, the service type, the day intervals, and all that needs to be in here so that you have a complete report. In this case, of course, it shows I'm testing, so I'm just testing to make sure all the form parts work. What it'll do is it'll summarize the information for the individual task, and if you have more than one task for the same work order, or a date range for a certain set of work orders, then it would summarize it once and then twice. So if I run the report, you'll see that it actually has a labor total with everything for the labor in this particular report. And if you're doing material, then you would look at the material summary, which is in that next tab next to this one. And it would give you the summary for cost, because most of the materials are going to be consumables in this particular case. If you're going to do a service repair as far as a work order is concerned, you can look at the work order report to see what items were consumed as far as replacement parts or things that were installed. This is basically to track the labor and the scheduling of this particular event and task that you're doing. In this case, it might say lubricate something or replace a gasket or a filter or something like that as a planned service item. If you have any questions, as usual, you can always contact me for more information about this particular screen. Thank you.